Oh, I'm very, I'm very snowy. Hello and welcome to Man's Model Moments Midweek Model Meet. Let me have a look at that camera adjustment there, because that's a little bit distracting, isn't it? Let's have a little look. There we go. I think that's a little bit better, isn't it? There we go. Anyway, I checked all of this before as well, and inevitably StreamYard changes things as you go along. So very quiet and slightly muffled. I shouldn't be. Just check the microphone. Should be all okay. Yep, we are on the right microphone, because sometimes it does go onto the webcam microphone rather than the proper microphone, but we are all good now, so hopefully you can hear me. So let me just have a little look at who is in tonight. I just saw Mystery Box Nick come in. We've got Julian. We've got Nick. That's Mystery Box Nick, isn't it? Yes. See you twice. We've got Adrian. We've got Paul Dye. We've got John Alec. Good to see you. We've got Kev Tembeth. We've got Philip Pascoe. We have... Who else have we got? Just looking down, we've got Stuart. We've got World War II Scale Models Dave. Good to see you. Travis Thompson. Drew. And Casey. Good evening, Casey. Good to see you. We've got Peter. Peter Lewis. Got Jonix. Rao Waters, and oh, it seemed fine. Good. That's coming up. We've got Craig Dukes. Good to see you, Craig. And got Howard. Hadriel Jones. If I'm hesitating a little bit, it's because if you're going to stream, you kind of need good lighting, and that includes from the front, which means you've got a light sitting in front of you. You can tell that if I do that, you can see how my face goes in shadow. But of course, that means that the light behind it, which is the screen, is slightly more difficult to read. So apologies for that. Anyway, we've got Carl. We've got, hopefully I didn't miss anybody there. We've got Emma, and I think that brings me more or less up to date. I've got Simon and Fina, Dr. Strains, and I've covered everybody. Good. Anyway, good evening. Cheers. So obviously today, quite a big day in the modelling calendar. We have the Airfix 2026 range announcement. Obviously, there will be some surprise releases during the year as well. But I think for those of you that have seen the range, and I presume most of you have seen the range release announcements, right? It's a pretty strong release announcement set today, I think. Probably one of the strongest since I've been doing the channel, I would say. I think they've ticked off a lot of the boxes that people were asking and expected from some of the releases that have been happening over the past couple of years, which I think is really good. So what I'm going to do tonight is I've actually gone through all of the releases. I've got them all on a PowerPoint. I kind of want to go through them. I'm going to do the usual thing. I'm going to go new toolings, kits with new parts, re-releases, vintage classics, and then into new boxings where they've got, new box sets where they put several kits in one box. So let me see if I can present this, whether it's going to let me. Okay. There we go. So if I do that, that's not really what I wanted. There we go. Oh, and it started raining heavily again. So apologies if, like the Tuesday talk, you can hear the rain. It's just the weather in the UK, I'm afraid. So, so the way Airfix release things and announce things is slightly different to the way that I'm going to be doing it. But basically, again, as I say, I'm going to look at new toolings. I've kind of arranged them sort of air, land, sea in each section, and then highest price to lowest price. So it makes some sort of logical order. So for new toolings, first thing we had, well, the first thing that I'm going to cover, what I consider the kind of biggest new tool in all of this, which is the Phantom FG1. So this is obviously dedicated RAF version of the Phantom. So if you look at the Phantoms out there in 48 scale, there isn't anything directly comparable to this aircraft. Now, the aircraft that you do see and that are pretty comparable, Meng released the F4G Phantom 2. They've done several different versions of this now. It's exactly the same price as the Airfix kit. Now, obviously, this is the American version. It's not the British version. So Airfix have taken the usual sort of Airfix spin, if you like, to the aircraft and done it in British service, which makes perfect sense, right? Their strongest market is the UK. So it makes sense, right? The other one, of course, that will be directly compared to is the Tamiya kit. So in terms of, I think, what Airfix need to do with this kit is they need to produce something which really can stand alongside the Tamiya kit. Obviously, Tamiya kit, and I'm looking at RRPs here. $74.99 is what you can buy it for from the Airfix website. Other retailers are going to, including myself, will obviously have it for less than that. Same with the Meng kit. You can pick that up for like £67-ish, about £8 less than the RRP. And the same with the Phantom. You can actually pick that up for, you know, almost £20 off, so more at the £80 mark. Obviously, it's been out for a little while now, a couple of years. But obviously, it's a very well received kit, the Tamiya kit. Tamiya are thought of as the gold standard for very good reason. So, in producing the F4G, sorry, the FG1, I was thinking of the Meng kit there. I think this is a really good way for people like out in the hobby who aren't very familiar with Airfix or have a particular view of Airfix. This will be able to benchmark it, right? Because you have, yes, the British version is different. Obviously, we had Rolls-Royce Spey engines in our Phantoms, which made them a little bit tubby and produced exactly the same speed because the extra weight was offset the extra thrust. We did have this great big extended forward undercarriage leg. And you can see that if you go to the Fleet Air Rail Museum in Yeovilton, where they've got the carrier deck all laid out, and you go through the little lift, the experience to, pseudo helicopter transport to it. And they've got a Phantom there, and it has exactly this for the British catapult system. So, but this is a way to directly compare, right, what Airfix are doing, what the Chinese are doing, and what the Japanese have done in the gold standard with Tamiya. So I think it's a pretty sensible move. It's kind of an obvious one. Airfix, a lot of people saying Tornado. Well, let's wait and see what the surprises are, right? because a tornado there for a surprise release would make perfect sense with the lineup that we've got. Because again, British Cold War kind of Airfix's go-to bag, and this fits right in with it, right? So I think it's a really good release. I think the price is sensible. It fits in line with the other stuff they've got. It's very much in keeping with the market, with modern toolings. Meng makes some really nice tools. But obviously in China, where the cost of labor is a lot cheaper, obviously one of the big things that people are going to be looking at is the production of this, because I have no doubt that Dale's team, the engineers and the designers there, can design a beautiful Phantom FG1. It's how that is translated into plastic that is going to be the crux point for this tooling, I think, and for all of the new tools to a large extent. So I think they've got a good opportunity here. The examples that they had built up, I'm not going to show the Airfix video. Everybody's going to show the Airfix video. You can go and watch the Airfix video by yourselves. You're all grown-ups, right? But the models that they had made up look really good. You've got these little extra bits on the side of the FG1 here. It's a distinctively British Phantom. If you compare it with the American ones, it does look different, of course, because we had to mess with it. So I think it's a really, really good announcement, and really followed up with the second one, which is the English Electric Canberra, the B2. Again, we're talking Cold War, British Cold War. It's their strength, and they've really played to their strengths in this release, I feel. That and obviously British World War II, and we'll see elements of that all the way through the release, I think. So obviously Airfix have released Canberras before. So there was an old Canberra kit. They re-released that to death. But this is the first new tool that we've seen of the Canberra for quite some time. And if you look at what else is out there, the most recent comparison to this is the AMP kit. Now, the AMP kit is not particularly great in terms of how it's produced. I've looked at the plastic. I haven't shown pictures of everything I'm going to talk about today because it would take forever if I put all that stuff up. But you can go and have a look. You can look this up, obviously. So the AMP kit is very much more the feel of a limited run, not top-notch manufacturer kit. And the important thing is, it's twice the price, right? It's £60. So £30 actually, I think, is very reasonable. I think £30 is what you pay for a 1/48 scale Spitfire from Airfix, which I think is personally, I think is on the high side, considering the ones you got from Edward and stuff. But that's an aside. The Canberra's a pretty meaty aircraft. It's got big slab wings, much like the Meteor. In 72nd scale, it isn't a small model. So I think £30 is not bad. Dale was talking about they've got a detailed interior and stuff. You're going to see very little of that. It's a bit like the Avro Vulcan. Not as bad as that, but British Cold War bombers, not renowned for their interior visibility from the outside. So, yeah. So I think that is actually a really good value proposition. And I know there's going to be a lot of people that will have seen this and been absolutely delighted. Now, that obviously begs the question in the future, are we going to see a 1/48 scale version new tool coming out? We'll see. But obviously, they've got a classic picture of it here with the Lightning. The two were contemporaries. So for me, this is a really solid release because the alternative, the most modern alternative, the AMP kit, or you can go back and get, quite frankly, the pretty poor old vintage classic Canberra. Not particularly good. So I think the first two, really good. Next is one I'm a little bit on the fence about. This is the JU52. They've gone for the 3M, the G4E. I don't know what the G4E, but the 3M is like one of the most produced variants of the JU52. Interestingly, Dale mentioned they are producing it, like you see it there, with crates and barrels, and they are going to be supplying crates and barrels so you can do little diorama, which I think is really nice. The JU52 is actually very much underrepresented in terms of new tools. Now, obviously, Hella make a kit of this. They've re-released that several times recently in both its standard form and their gift set sort of form. It's not very much money. It's about £18. Likewise, the most modern equivalent, though, the most recent tool to this is the Taglieri kit, J52 3M. It's about £30, but it's a 1977 tool, and that's the most recent. So the others are like in the 60s. So it's very, very much overdue in 1/72nd scale. In 1/48 scale, you have the very nice Revell kit, which I really wish they'd re-release because it does command fairly high prices on the second-hand market. But this is pretty available. The Taglieri kit, it's been going for forever. It was Italieri before they dropped the A from the name and changed the company name to Atelieri. So this looks really nice. They had pictures of it. It had all kinds of panels and bits open. You know, it's got the interior. It's got all of that. The only thing that makes me pause is £42, £41.99 is a lot, right? There is no doubt, I think, that is on the high end. Yes, it's a relatively big plane, transport plane. 1/72 is not that big. I mean, is it substantially bigger than the Canberra? Not a huge amount. Not a huge amount. And I appreciate they've got the interior in there, but I guess they're going for exclusivity. So nobody else has tooled this, in 50 years, new tool. So I'm guessing they're going for, look, we are producing the definitive 1/72nd scale JU52. Therefore, we can command, we're going to do it as a premium kit. You're going to get all the interior, you're going to get the engines, you're going to get the diorama accessories, you can have it with spats or no spats. So it's going to be £42, which it's a choice. Is it the right one? I don't know. They got Dale was talking about how they've slide molded the clear part for the transparency at the front here, the cockpit piece. So it's a really complex single piece thing, which is great. I'm glad to see Airfix are embracing the technology. I guess it will, it comes down to you guys. Is this going to be something that people want? Now, I've been looking at how do I actually get polls through StreamYard, because I can do it directly. I should have done it directly. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get anybody to join me tonight, so I put it on StreamYard just to be on the safe side. But how do I do polls? Because I'd love to know what you guys think about whether you think this is actually worth £42. If anybody knows How you do a poll through StreamYard on YouTube? Please do let me know. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. That's the first one that I thought I'm not 100% sure, because I saw it and thought that's fantastic. I'd love to do a really nice detailed JU52. And of course, on the announcement, they don't tell you the prices. I went to the Airfix website, obviously, and looked at each of these individually, downloaded the pictures, did a bit of ScaleMate searching, see what what the alternatives were. And then I saw some of the prices and like, okay, £42. That's a pause moment, right? Not that it's not good, but if you think 20 more pounds, you can have a 148 scale Hampton. It's just, yeah. When you come to that value proposition, it's very much a personal thing, right? Some people, I'm guessing, will look at this and think £42 is a snip for what they're offering. Yeah, it's 72nd scale. I think it's great to see that they've got a mix of scales this time. We've seen release schedules which are very sort of mono-focused on bigger scales like 48th or whatever. This one did seem to have a nice broad mix. I think it was a really nice balanced release in terms of the scales and subjects and everything. There's a little bit of something for most people. I won't say for everyone, but certainly I think there is something that most people could take away from this release and be happy with, I think. But yeah, I mean, it is, £42, another £12. It's almost 50% more than the Italeri one. And the Italeri one, I mean, I've done that a couple of times. Not a bad kit. What is this one going to add on top of that? Is it going to be worth the extra money? It'll be interesting to see. So then we come to something that I think everybody predicted or everybody wanted, right? The Alvis Saracen. And here we have it. Brand new tool, 35th scale, and $33.99, which I think is pretty much average for a 35th scale brand new tool vehicle. It fits that whole Cold War British mantra that Airfix have kind of got into the groove of in recent years. I mean, it's very distinctive. They can do a lot with this as well. This can be re-released in different forms, the ambulance, etc., in the future. So I think this is a really good release. I was quite excited when I saw this, although I don't know whether they 3D printed the one that they showed. I did notice there were several bits which weren't put together very well, but that's neither here nor there. But of course, really, your alternative here is the now defunct not AFV Club, Accurate Miniatures, and the like. So there is a multimedia company which only made a Saracen last year, which is this. HK Creation Workshop, but this is £75, and obviously this is mixed media. You've got resin, you've got white metal, and it's going to be a much more difficult thing to put together, and it doesn't have an interior. It says here, no interior. So for less than half the price, you can get a fully injection molded styrene version. That, I mean, I do feel for these people, because let's face it, they're not going to sell any of these in the UK market or anyway. You can easily get Airfix when this comes out. So it'll be interesting to see if it shares or what, if any, commonality it has with the actual tooling for the Stalwart. I believe I've put it in new tools because I believe this is a new tool. I don't think it incorporates any of those Stalwart pieces, maybe the wheels, I don't know. But for all intents and purposes, this is a new tool, right? They have the chassis and everything. Although the vehicles might have had some commonality, it doesn't quite work the same way in styrene. You can't segregate a piece of a tool and say, we can build on that. It's like, no, it's the piece, right? So I think if we just look at what we've got so far, you have 48 scale aircraft, you've got 72nd scale aircraft, both Cold War British subjects. You have German World War II, very, very common subject, 172nd scale, still a very popular scale. And then you've got a 135th scale vehicle, again, British Cold War. So several themes you're picking up on here, but quite a lot of variation in terms of who this is aimed at. So I think this is great. I think this, for me, would there is kind of predictions on when these are going to come. I haven't put any of that in here because it's always, tentative. But for sure, I can see this being a big seller in the shop. Obviously, I'll be stocking these, not necessarily bought directly from Airfix, but that's another story. But yeah, this is a definite win, I think, for Airfix here. So that's it for new tools. I'm just going to pause a second. And somebody's just said to do a poll, you need to hit the plus key on the chat window and create it there. The thing is, in StreamYard, I don't have a plus from the on the chat window. So not quite sure how I square that circle. As I say, I can do it through OBS. I can do it through the YouTube directly. Just not sure how to do it through StreamYard. I know there is a way. I just don't know what that is. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to pause and quickly go back and see if there are any comments or questions on the new tools that I've just gone through there. So Simon's Modelling Shed said would rather get the ICM flying suitcase to Hampton. It's like, which is very much a kit in keeping with Airfix's wheelhouse, right? But again, that's going to be very much down to personal preference, right? As always, chaps, if you've chaps and chapesses, if you have any questions or comments, if you put question or comment in capital letters or QQQ or CCC, just so that I can pick them out in the chat, like when I'm going back and just scrolling through here. Much as Paul Dye has here. The Canberra is nice, not keen on the decals, though. I think the thing is, though, Paul, because there have been Airfix Canberras of, dubious quality in the past, the old tools, there are plenty of aftermarket decals. And I think for £30 for the kit, actually, that isn't out the bounds of possibility, right? In picking up a nice scheme. There's tons of schemes for the Canberra. The B2 that I think you could probably do aftermarket and not pay too much money because they've been out a long time. The aftermarket decals. It's not like they're a brand new set going to cost you $15.99. You could probably pick something up for around £5 to £10 if you shop around. So yeah, the schemes that they've gone with, if they're not your thing, and they've gone through one airframe through its lifetime again, which I think is nice, provided you've got variety. What I saw is I think they've got like I think it was an anti-nuclear flash white bomber, right? And then they got one which is the same, but with some, it might be silver, I'm not sure, one with some red piping on, which looks quite nice, and then a full camouflage one, which isn't the greatest variety, but I might have liked to have seen a little bit more than that, but you know, you pay your money and you take your choice, right? Okay, just checking through. Julian says they could have included a Ju-52 Lufthansa scheme. They'd get military and civilian modelers then. I'm sure, Julian, that will be a future release, right? The thing is, the Ju-52 was used in so many theatres. You only have to look at it. If you go to Scalemates, look at it. Maybe we'll do that a little bit later. Go to Scalemates, look at the Italieri Ju-52 and see how many times they've released it and how many different schemes, because it was used everywhere, right? It was used in Africa, it was used in Eastern Europe, it was used in Western Europe. It was their main transport plane, right, for the majority of the war. And yes, we had the Gigant and Tassafunder and various other things. Small numbers, select areas. The Ju-52 was the main troop transport that the Luftwaffe used. So there's going to be tons of schemes. And as you say, it was also used, I think, before and after the war in civilian service. So there's going to be plenty of kits, of schemes that they can use for the kit. So I'm sure it's going to be with us for a long time, for sure. Just checking down for any more comments, and then we'll move on to kits with new parts. So this one, Fina, I actually saw his AI one. I think AI actually predicted quite a lot of these, which in some senses is not surprising, but yeah. Simon's Mollingshed said, if it's a good kit to go together, and I'm guessing that was about the Ju-52, right? Paul Dye says the Saracen and the Canberra are the ones for me. Yeah, if you have zero interest in British Cold War, then some of these are going to leave you, forgive the pun, but cold. But I think it's smart for Airfix to play to its strongest market. Are they going to play to a US market, which they've just closed their warehouse down in and they're going through distribution? Are they going to play to an Australian market, which is, I think, quite loyal, but they just really badly supply to? They might get them next year. Are they going to go to a European market, which has a mixed reception on subjects, or are they going to go to where they know they're going to be able to sell them? So it makes sense, right? It makes sense. Yeah, the UK Phantom is indeed different. So there was a joke in the RF about what happens when you spay a Phantom. Because it had to be wider. So obviously, if you spay a dog or a cat, it tends to put on weight. And so yeah, the spay engines were a lot more powerful, but because of the extra weight and drag, they basically didn't affect performance at all. So we did all this modification for basically nothing. Do you think the Canberra will evolve to a Nimrod later on? To be honest, Adrian, I don't. I mean, they did produce the Nimrod, and it was a pretty nice kit. I made that. It's huge in 72nd scale. The Nimrod is massive. I can see them bringing that back because I don't think you could improve on it, but not massively. So maybe they'll bring that back. I know a lot of people would like to see it. It commands huge prices on eBay and stuff. So, okay. One last comment, and then we shall move on. Comment: I would like an Aussie Canberra. Have to check aftermarket decals. Yeah, I'm sure that will be in the future, but there'll definitely be aftermarket decals for that for sure. Comment, space gave more power for cat launches, only high altitude top speed was knocked down. On the deck, it was faster than J79. Fair enough. Adam Scale Modeling says, various lovely kits this year, to be honest, leaves lots of nice room for nice releases through the year. Tornado at Telford. I think that's what a lot of people are going to be thinking. It's going to be very disappointing if it's not, isn't it? Right, let's have a look. Kits with new parts. The first one, I think, is the big one that everybody was talking about when the Lysander was first announced, and then didn't make it until last year, because it was announced Telford and then made it into 2025 as a new release. Where's the SOE one? Well, here it is. So this will please a lot of people. Again, it's very, very much to the British market, right? The British SOE. They did great work with Lysanders. It's what a lot of people know the Lysander for. And so there are different parts here. Yeah, there's the rear boarding ladder. There's crew compartments, or passenger compartments, I should say, inside. They've got the fuel tanks, and they've even made a 1/48 scale female agent, although we'll see, because Airfix aren't known for their figure sculpts. So, but there are plenty out there available to 3D print or in the aftermarket, if you want to do such a sort of diorama of SOE executive agent being dropped off or picked up or resupplied or whatever. So I think this is great. I think a lot of people wanted this. It saves having to go to aftermarket or 3D print or scratch build all your bits to convert an existing Lysander. So I think this is a shoe-in kind of thing. But I think Airfix playing to their audience is absolutely the right thing to do. So for me, this release makes a lot of business sense. It's crowd pleasing. It gets people what they want. Why wouldn't you do that? It's one of the first things in business. Give people what they want. This is what people want. In terms of this, there really is no alternative, right? The Lysander filled a gap in the market, and this then, completes that hole, if you like. And it's good to see we haven't seen, massive increases in prices or anything here. The other one that and I called it, and various other people called it, because of the separate nose section, it was obvious that they were going to tool that part for the T2, T4, and they've gone and done it. One of the things is I'm quite impressed with how fast they've turned this around. So the Jaguar was only released, what was it, like April-ish last year, and a year later they've got the extra pieces. So they were probably all designed all at once, I'm guessing, and they just staggered the release. That would make sense, right? I almost like the T2, T4 version of the Jaguar more than the native version. Now I have two Jaguars down there, which I've almost completed. I just have to do final assembly. I may actually hold off on that because I got most of the video footage all done and everything. I may hold off on it and do the T2 and do the three together. So there's the Hella one, the Airfix new tool, and then it would be the T2 or T4 as well. I like the Raspberry Ripple scheme. I think that would be a nice one to do. So this one, no brainer for me. I still think it's too expensive. I think £60 is a lot. The Jaguar is not a large aircraft. So I still think it's on the rich side for this size of aircraft. I mean, it'll still sell, right? And maybe they're thinking the same sort of thing as with the Ju-52. Now, I think the possible alternatives to this are the Kitty Hawk models, if you can get them. They're not in production anymore, of course, but you can get them on the second-hand market. I don't know. I've not done the Kitty Hawk, and it's like, well, if you've got one that's readily available, you know is good. It's like, why are you going to mooch around on the second-hand market? So for me, this is, again, it makes perfect sense. It's exactly what we predicted. It's what people wanted, and now you've got it. I think, well done. Next, we have the other obvious one. A little bit later than, obviously, they've responded with the Lysander and the Jaguar very quickly. This has taken a couple of years, but it's the Yellow Sea King. It's the one everybody wanted, right? This will sell. Obviously, the HAR3, it's a little bit different. It's got different bits and bobs, but it's a Yellow Sea King. So what's not to like? A lot of people, it's a lot of people will be buying this because it's the Sea King that they know and love, right? So kind of obvious, but that doesn't mean it's not a good move. I think it is. It's a smart move. It's what people wanted. Again, well done Airfix for doing it. And again, the price is the same as the current. Moving on, we have one I didn't see coming, but again, makes perfect sense because they spent a lot of time and money correcting the mistake they made on the original Cromwell on these wheels, right? They got the wrong number of bolts here, and I suppose they're bolt counters rather than rivet counters. Pointed it out. I didn't care. It was a nice kit. Goes together really nicely, the Cromwell. And now to do the CS version as well, I think is great. Again, it just rounds out that range, and it's obviously using the corrected wheel tooling. So I wonder if we'll see a was it the short-barreled version? Was it called something different? Centaur, wasn't it? I wonder if we'll see a Centaur in due course. I don't know how similar the hulls were. I'm sure somebody in chat will know. Please enlighten me. But again, makes perfect sense, right? They're expanding. This is exactly the sort of thing that smart companies do, like ICM. You'll see ICM get a lot of value out of a tool by doing every iteration they can out of a base tooling. Look at the B26 that they did, the Marauder. They've done lots of different versions of that. Different the one with different wings, different angle of incidence wings, British versions, different American versions. It's exactly what you want to do, because if somebody sees that, like, oh, it's a B26F, oh, I wish they did the G, and then they do the G, it's like, oh, okay, I don't have to do conversion or anything. I'm just being given what I wanted. So again, I think this makes perfect sense. For me, it starts to get a bit ugly when they start adding all of this crap to the Cromwell, all these boxes and things. I know it doesn't affect the actual tanker stuff, but I like my tanks a little bit leaner than that. But no, I think it's a good use of the tooling and their time and efforts, right? And then we have this. Again, I didn't necessarily see this coming this year. Obviously, the Stalwart came out in the latter half of last year. Last year just seems to blur into one. This is great because it gives me an opportunity to do a Stalwart that's not chrome. So I could actually do a proper Stalwart, if you like, a proper muddy one. And the crane, the limber version, I mean, they were pulled in to pull stuff out of crap, right, and haul large, heavy loads. So it's going to be dirty. So I can go for it on that one. Do a bit of a sully on that. So I think this is great. There were some odd things happening with some of the prices on these, though, which I did notice. So this one is $33.99, and yet, as far as I understand, it is the same series as the Cromwell, which is $34.99, which is kind of weird, right? It's just an anomaly. I don't want to pay an extra £1 for it, obviously, but I just thought that was a bit weird because Airfix tend to have set prices for their ranges. So like a series 10 kit or 11 kit or whatever, are all the same price as part of the purpose of it. So I was a bit mystified when I saw that. They don't do it for the vintage classics. Those tend to be priced differently. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but it doesn't really materially affect anything. But again, I think this is great. It means that you don't have to get aftermarket parts for an existing Stalwart. It makes it a little bit different. I think this is great. So I will definitely be building one of these at some point and seeing how dirty I can make it. So I'm going to pause there a second. I did take the time to actually star people's comments there, so I should be able to pick those out a little bit quicker than I did previously. So to start with, Julian says, will they do subjects with civilian and military variants to double their market, e.g. the VC-10? Good question. I mean, the Ju-52 could be a test example of that, right? If they do some Lufthansa schemes for that. I guess with Lufthansa, though, it's a matter of licensing because they are still an existing body, right? And that copyright still exists. I know a lot about copyright law recently, as you may know. So it makes sense, right? How much they exploit it, I guess we'll see. Pre-order one already, Lysander. Okay, fair enough. I take it someone's happy then, Simon. Paul says that Lysander is a good call. Yeah, I agree. I think it's smart, right? It's a smart move. For the Jaguar, it's the same price as the single-seater, and you get one seat extra. That's a win. Exactly. You get more for your money. You get 2 sets, and not just one. Exactly. That's exactly my thinking. £60. Are Hornby trying to claw back some of the lost 11 million? Yeah. I think that's for another time. I don't want to sort of be accused of trying to steal Airfix's thunder. I think they've done a good range announcement today. I think let's not take that off them. Let's take this as it's being given, celebrating what they're doing, because I think they're doing a lot of things right. And to be fair, I think Airfix is a big part of that increase of sales that Hornby saw in 2025. So, yeah, I'll skip that question. I know it's rhetorical, but yeah. Graham says, new dilemma now. How far will my budget stretch and what to pre-order first? So this, I think, is one of the big, in terms of crises, right, that modelers have to face. They're tiny, right? This is a hobby. It's a luxury hobby. We aren't having to deal with the horrific problems that some nations are having to deal with, the conflicts and political unrest and all those kinds of things. We get to take time to cut bits of plastic up and stick them together and paint them, which is a luxury we should all be thankful for. But in terms of dilemmas that we face, model companies keep giving us these dilemmas, right? And it goes back to what Moss and I said a couple of years ago about being in a golden age of modeling. Gary and I talked about it on the Christmas special of Beyond the Box podcast. You should go and watch that. Listen to it. It's great. Not to be confused with a certain other podcast that I will not mention. But I mean, Christmas, right? Coming up to Christmas, we had 3 A-star releases, Premier League releases. I found it difficult to. What was my kit of the year? The Gloucester Meteor went out. Obviously, I've done a review. Members will have seen or could have seen it already. An unboxing. It's a long one because I go in detail on all the stuff, and it takes time to go through all the stuff they've given you. For about the same price as the 109, you're getting a ton of stuff. It's a real project box, right? It's not just I'm going to sit in front of the telly and do this for half an hour kind of thing, which, I mean, sometimes is what you want, right? But that Revell kit gives you so much. The 109, fantastic kit, fantastic build. The Hampton, same again, and we have 3 of those within a couple of weeks of each other. We're just getting all of these releases. We've got DBMK models coming out with stuff this year, which I'm really looking forward to. The Hornet, for instance. Got Qatari releasing more stuff. We've got Mini Art coming out with that 190 Langnason. Just phenomenal slew of kits. So this time of year, I'm really looking forward to what Revell are going to be announcing. I think that's going to be great. Obviously, super looking forward to the ICM announcements. And that's before we even start with China, who last year released some phenomenal stuff. Some of my most enjoyable builds of last year were Chinese manufacturer kits. The Amusing Hobby Black Eagle was a lovely build, So I agree. The dilemma now is how to get the most out of that budget. I will say the thing with Airfix is if you aren't super desperate to have the newest thing, give it 6 months, it will be 30% off. So sorry, I didn't say that. Jalek, much appreciated. I will let you know. I know I have pre-order forms from some of my suppliers already. GaugeMaster emailed me shortly after the release for those. So I am going to be going, I think, through a wholesaler rather than Airfix Direct for reasons that I've gone through a number of times. But yeah, I will note those down. I will get pre-orders on my website when I've had a look at what the wholesalers are doing. They'd get blasted if they didn't add stowage. I take it, not quite sure what you're referring to there, Alt 92. Which kit is that? Oh, the Cromwell, I guess, right? Yeah, I know. And, it's one of those, it's personal taste, right? I just like my Cromwells clean. Kitbuster says it looks like the Jag has CBLS practice bomb pots based on box art. Julian says, I think they could do a conversion kit, not a full Stolly 2 Limber kit. Then they could sell a Stolly 2 and conversion kit. Less money lost if the Limber doesn't sell. Well, I mean, some of that is on. The thing is, right, if you're making Stalwarts, the frames, and you're bagging them, to add a Limber frame to that and put it in a different box, if those don't sell, you can always take that out and put it in a Stalwart box and sell it. So I don't think it's a huge thing, but I get where you're talking. I'm sure they want to sell the whole kit, and then maybe they would release the conversion kit later, but I don't know. Probably not. We'll see. All right. It is indeed, Craig, a great first world problem to have is to worry about where do we spend our money on these fantastic new kits that are coming out. I mean, we're very, very lucky. I feel extremely privileged to be able to sit here, having a beer. Cheers. Haven't had any because I've been talking. Talking to people who share the same passion that I do about what great kits are coming out. I mean, that's and to be able to forget all of the insanity that's happening in the world, right? And in our country, it's. I don't want to say that all problems are out there, because we certainly have our fair share. All right. I'm not sure what LOX means, but I'll take it that it's the same as CCC or something. Are you replying to another comment? Okay. Also, the amount of decals less on armor, so they probably pay cartograph less for them. Several people have said decals. Oh, I think people talking about the price of things. Yeah, I don't know. It's probably something you could go down a fairly deep rabbit hole on and not necessarily get anywhere. Now, Emma, that's a very good point. And I was wondering, actually, have they taken the time whilst they're doing that to also include some, I won't say corrected flaps, but the Jag didn't sit with deployed flaps, right? Or flaperons, as they actually are. Because they're also control surfaces, they're not just flaps. It would be nice, right? And I think it'd be a simple fix. So I'll say fix, it's not like it's broken, but it would be nice to have that option for sure. And if they did that in the T2 as well, I think that's a shoe-in, right? Okay, I think we are all up to date there. So let's go on to reissues and new schemes. So these are all kits that are either we haven't seen for a while, or we've seen them recently, but they're coming out with some new decals. I haven't really differentiated between them in this, because for me, it's all the same, right? It's the same kit. It's just got something new. Either it's not been around for a while, or it's got some new pretty stickers on. Unless you're particularly interested in that scheme, I don't think that's a draw. For me personally, it's not, because I've never seen the scheme as the main draw, because I can get aftermarket from anywhere. I can make my own decals. I can paint it that way. So I don't see that as a barrier, but I know that's not a universal feeling. So anyway, without further ado. Oh, what am I doing? That was all very rapid and unintended. So to start with, we have the Grumman Hellcat. So this is the 124 scale kit. We know Airfix 124 scale kits are pretty nice. The Hellcat goes for silly money on the secondhand market if you can find them. They're pretty rare. 149.99 is, it's a lot, but the Hellcat is quite a big fighter, surprisingly large, actually, as quite a lot of the American fighters were. I mean, P-47 was an absolute beast, which is why you could, drill 1,000 holes in it with machine guns, and it still kept flying. So the Hellcat, which is obviously the later fighter rather than the original Wildcat, which is a lot smaller, is a bit of a beast. So 149.99 I can see, but it is still 149.99, right? That's still, it's quite an intimidating number, right? So again, if I was able to manage the poll, this would be one that I would be saying, do you think, and actually just comment, just put CCC and then comment, do you think this is a fair price for the Hellcat? Are they chancing it a little bit and have added £20 on? Maybe it should be 129.99 or whatever. I think originally it was about £120. So I don't think it's increased that much if you look in terms of inflation. And I will come back to inflation later on because it comes up in another kit. Because I was surprised at the price, and when I actually looked at it, it actually is less than the inflationary change in the period from since it was released. So, yeah, is £150 a fair price from Airfix for this, or is it a little bit rich? I think it will sell because the kit's got a good reputation. It's a big kit. I'm not sure I would have gone with this. So if I was in Dale's shoes, I would have pushed for the Mosquito rather than this. The reason being the uncertainty with the US market, because I think this is a kit that could really push the US market more. And if I was going to make my big, North America grab, I would reserve this and other releases like it to try and capture that market. Whereas here, not so much. But what do you guys think? I guess the other thing is, of course, it is massive. So where do you put it? I've got a shop, so I have the room to put it. Well, I have a shop, and even I'm pushed for room actually now. I really need a bigger shop, but I can't afford to pay bigger rates. So yeah, it's a bit of a quandary, this one. I think it's interesting for sure. I'd love to get one, but I keep looking at that price, and it's a big one. This one might be one that I hold off on and see if they go in the sale. Which is very cynical of me, right? So let's move on. So this is the Fairy Gannet, the AS1, AS4. I'm really annoyed about this because they've got the Australian decals. I did my Gannet in Australian decals. I made the M because that is for HMS Melbourne, and the navy and the front numbers. Oops, sorry. My mouse is very sensitive. Now, I haven't published a video on that, so you haven't seen that, but it looks beautiful. And I really did it because I did it with Outlaw paints, and I kind of did it while I was doing the Outlaw paints for Jason, and then that kind of all went tits up. So kind of died a death there. I lost my enthusiasm for it a bit in terms of publishing the video. I've made the kit. I mean, it's a hell of a kit. This is a fantastic kit. If you've not done a Gannet and you're unsure, or if you haven't done an Airfix kit for a while, you're into 48 scale, want a fairly substantial build, buy the Gannet. The Gannet is one of Airfix's finest engineered kits. And I think anybody who has built it will tell you the same thing. Also, if you don't put the wings on and you've weighted it properly, you can use it as a club because you have to put a lot of weight in there. Mine's actually got roofing lead in it, and yeah, it could be a lethal weapon. I think it's really good, actually, that they've done the Australian Air Force version because I think it looks great. The Gannet is an amazing aircraft. It's incredibly ugly, but it was actually very good once they ironed out the problems in the gearboxes. And if you get a chance to see, there are some videos on YouTube about the Gannet, seeing it in operation, seeing it take off. Incredible aircraft. Well worth going and watching those. So this is the same price as the last release. It did go up in Airfix's price increases from the original release to when they did the sort of delivery option last year, but it's still good value. £60. It's a chunky kit. It's an involved build. It's great detail. Fit is perfection. Really, really nice. It also, where it's got all the weathering there and the rivets and everything, this thing takes a wash absolutely beautifully, and it really does look good. So So I think that's it's a good release. I don't think it's particularly, you know, is it going to move the needle for them? I don't know. I think a lot of people who wanted to build the Gannet have already built the Gannet, because they did the other version of it, the delivery version, obviously not the big early warning one, because that would require a big change. I think they might have soaked up quite a lot of the market. I think this, of course, is ideal for the Australian or Australasian market. It's whether you guys can get them in any sort of reasonable time, isn't it? It's really, that's a supply issue thing. But I think this is good. Right, let's move on. This is good. So I've been wondering how long it would take them to do this. And, Moss and I talked about it 3 years ago. I've talked about it with other people, and they've finally come through and done it, because there was always that thing, is it good enough to be in an Airfix red box? And obviously they've decided, well, either financial pressures have said, just do it, or they've decided it is. I've built this kit. I built it. It's on my channel. You may have seen it. It's a tribute to my father. It was my father's favorite aircraft. I did an aircraft that was the Wing Commanders out in RAF Gütersloh in Germany. It's a great aircraft, right? Again, British Cold War. It's iconic for that. I mean, it was terrible, really. I mean, it was just a rocket. It had 2 missiles on it and some guns. I mean, as an interceptor, not terribly effective, really, if you look at it in harsh terms. But what a machine, right? What a machine. So this will sell. It's not been available for a while, for quite a while. And I'm sure this will get snapped up. Weirdly, though, and I know it's not a new tool, but it's not an old tool as well. It's like 2000 and something, I think. Might be late, very late 90s, but it's 50 quid. It's £10 less than the Jaguar, which it's much bigger than. I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? So yeah, waiting. This is also interesting. I used an aftermarket set, which was resin, which helped. I still had to put a load of weight in the radome, but this is nice. This is nice to see. Then we have the de Havilland Vampire, the F3. This is a nice kit as well, and the price of this, £35, I think is not bad. It's 48 scale. It's, again, an iconic Cold War British fighter. We'll see what schemes it has, but again, it's quite a crowd pleaser. I think it's been out a few times already, but it's a nice aircraft. It looks cool, and I think it will do reasonably well. Then we have this, the Ju-87 R2B2 Stuka, with this unusual bright yellow tail. Interesting scheme. And the Airfix Ju-87 is a really good kit. I think it's also the only kit I think it's the only Series 7 aircraft kit that Airfix do. The only one at this price point. £40. I was trying to think about whether that was a reasonable amount of money for a 48 scale Stuka. I think it is. The Stuka is quite a big aircraft. So Italeri do the Ju-87B. It's around about £33. So, it's £7 shy. You're going to be able to get this 10% less anywhere. So it's going to be about 36. So really you're talking about £3 difference. This is a much older tool. And obviously doesn't feature that scheme. Italia, you have this. kit in various schemes, including Italian schemes even. And again, aftermarket for 48 scale has been around forever. So I think this is pretty good as a release. And if you've not done a JU87 in 48 scale, the Airfix kit is a decent one to go for. One of the members actually on my Discord did this kit recently. It looks phenomenal. So you know who you are. Then we have the Blenheim, the Mark 1F. I have actually built this kit. It's one of the first Airfix kits I built when I returned to the hobby. It was a kit that my dad had in his stash when he died, unopened and unstarted. And so I did it because it reminded me of him shortly after I lost him. So I think the version that was last released was the Night Fighter version. I stand to be corrected on that. But this is a really nice kit as well. It's one of Airfix's slightly earlier new toolings, 2014, something like that, I think. But it's really nice. It is really nice. And the Blenheim is, again, it was one of those aircraft that was it was ahead of its time, but its time was really just before the war. So by the time the war came, it was kind of outclassed. It was seen as a high-speed light bomber, and it didn't really have the protection or the speed to be able to contend with the new batch of modern fighters that came out, like the ME-109 at the beginning of the war. But I think it's quite a pretty aircraft in its original iteration. When you get to the Mark IV, I think it becomes fugly. But this is a good kit. Again, £50 makes this for £40 look even more reasonable. But that isn't out of the realms at all. If you think about the Hampton, another twin engine. Okay, it's a bit larger than the Blenheim. It was actually a lot more effective as a bomber. But that is what, 63 you can pick that up for. So £13 difference, brand new tool. So this, I think, is pitched at the right sort of level, to be honest. Not a bad kit. And I don't think it's been around in this iteration for a little while. So I think that's I think it's pretty good. Then we have this. So we've gone down now to 72nd scale, but we've gone up to the massive Shackleton, which really the final iteration of those piston-engined, big four-engined heavies. Always to me looks as though a B-24 and a Lancaster got something going and created this thing. I really like this scheme. I think the Suez Crisis stripes on British aircraft, especially when it's this dark sea grey colour, I think they just look stunning. £60 is quite a lot, but it's a big aircraft. And if you look at the alternative, which is the Revell Shackleton, which came out, I think, within a year of each other, which was just one of those things. That is not currently in production. They do two versions. This was the most recently released. On eBay, these things go for over £130. Ridiculous money, right? I don't know how the two compare to each other. I presume they're pretty equivalent given the age of the tooling. I think it's 2015, 2016. So I don't think there's going to be too much between them. People have their preferences, whatever, right? But I mean, you can buy two of those and still have change for one of these. So what are you going to do? If you want to build a Shackleton, I think re-releasing this is a really good strategy. Which brings us on to, I think, for me, one of the most meh of these releases, and that is the B-25B. Airfix have released this kit quite a lot in the last few years. I've got 2 iterations of this on the shelves in the shop, so this would be a third. So for me, this is like, yeah, it's another Mitchell. Again, for me, would I have re-released this at this time? My American market isn't particularly stable. Probably not. I probably wouldn't have wasted the time. But it's there. Convinced me that it's a fantastic idea. For me, it's not a bad idea. It's just kind of nothing, right? It's not like we haven't been able to get a Mitchell from Airfix, and the B25 is very well represented in 1/72 scale. There's a lot of them about. And then we get to the more puzzling. This, the F117A Nighthawk, I don't get. This is a 1992 tool. There are a lot of Nighthawks that were, I think there's 6 original tools, all around between 1991, 1990, up to, I think the latest is 1998 for the mainstream manufacturers. This particular scheme has been done by pretty much all of them. Hasegawa, Academy, I think even Italeri have done this scheme. So Hella have this, or had released this. It was the Airfix mold, but it was released by Hella. I've actually got that kit. It's not a bad kit, but £30, I think, is rich, because the last time the Revell kit was released, which was only a couple of years ago, this is a 1991 tool, and it's £20. There are plenty of these on the market. You can buy this from Amazon. Yeah, it doesn't have this scheme, but there are, again, plenty of aftermarket that do. Hasegawa have released their tooling of this, which I think that's the 1998 tool, and they've released it like 7 or 8 times, like they do, including this scheme. So they're probably out there in model shows and stuff. So this I don't get. I don't know where this has come from. Again, in a year where they've just started their distribution network in the US, I would have waited until that business was more established before pushing stuff like this. I think for me, this is a mistake. I'm sure they'll sell some of them, but will they sell enough of them? I don't know. It just seems weird to me, this one. If there's something about the Airfix kit that I haven't got, I don't know. I picked up the Hella boxing of this kit. I can't even, I think it was like £3 or £4 in a model show. And then I can buy the aftermarket decals, I think for £11.99, including this scheme. I don't get it. I just don't get it. So this one for me is the first big mystery thing for me. The one I just went, what? Really? So please let me know if I've missed something. If like, oh no, they've done something special which makes this so much better. It makes it 50% better than the Revell one or whatever. I'd love to know, because I don't see it, right? Yeah, that's the last boxing of the Hasegawa. Oh, it's a 1999 tool. Sorry. And as I say, they have done the. I think it was the last farewell, which of course turned out not to be the last farewell. These things have operated because the stealth cross section of this is actually really, really small. I think it's smaller than an F-35. They're just not that capable, in terms of what they can carry. An F-35 can carry much more and all that kind of stuff. This is very mono-purposed, but it's very good at what it does. And then we come to the example that I was going to talk about with inflation, because this was announced to Kate, and I thought, oh, that's quite good. I've been looking to pick up one of these. When I was doing the Imperial Japanese Navy mixing colors for ICM, I was like, I'd love to have a Kate. I'm sure I could pick up a Kate, and then, of course, you can't get them. I'm like, oh, right, I thought they were quite readily available and cheap, but no. And then I saw they released it, and I looked on the website. It's $24.99. I'm just like, have I looked at the wrong thing? Like, $24.99, really? Is it that much? And then I did a bit of looking, and the original kit was released in 2015, I think. And I believe it was $19.99. So I plugged into an inflation calculator what that would be, and it turned out that it was like £27. So if you bought this kit in 2021, so just 5 years ago, at $19.99, inflation adjusted, that's $24.99. So it has not changed in terms of the, inflation adjusted price. I was quite surprised about that. Just shows you how much inflation shot up in the past 5 years. That we've added 25% on in that time in this country. But yeah, in terms of the scheme, I mean, it's fine. It's in terms of what they're actually supplying you with decals, it's pretty much going to be the Hinamaru and the serial numbers, right? I actually think this scheme is nicer, but again, personal preference. If you missed the Kate the first time round, this is in line with what you could buy it for before. So it's not bad. So I was slightly surprised, slightly shocked at the inflation we've experienced, but quite pleasantly surprised that it's not Airfix price gouging. It's just the way it is. So, alrighty, moving on. We have the Sabre in 72nd scale. Has some nice schemes. That's about all I can say. Sabre's a nice aircraft, but it's not uncommon. $17.99, I don't think it's bad. It's not like the Swift, which they released for $24.99, which was ridiculous, which I think is about the same size, or if not smaller than the Sabre. So this is fine. Again, is it going to move the needle? Probably not. But if you missed the 72nd scale Sabre before, you can pick it up now. So it's another kind of like, oh, okay. The Wildcat, I think this is good. $11.99, same as their other 172nd scale fighters in this. Yeah, it's a slightly smaller fighter than quite a lot smaller than the Hellcat, but it was a staple of the US. Again, it's exactly the same decals as before, which are the US ones. So I would have probably held off again for the stabilization of the American market, but hey ho, it goes in line with the Pearl Harbor thing, right? And then we have the Warhawk. I mean, this is not a kit that is not easily to find, but they're releasing it again, $8.99. It's a snip, right? This is a good kit for $8.99. It's worth $8.99 of anybody's money. Nice little mojo build. It was used in all kinds of theaters as well. The P40. So I've got a kind of a soft spot for the P40. I don't know why. I just think it looks quite cool. It's kind of pointy nosed, and you get some good like nose art for it. Lots of shark and tiger mouths and things. Yeah, it's just, I think it's underappreciated, the P40, but $8.99, I think, for re-releasing that. Great, bring it on. Then we get into these 176 scale. These are the old JMB toolings. We've got the Tactical Aircraft Refueler and the Saracen. Well, no, Tactical Aircraft Refueler, I think, is the JMB one. The Saracen is an Airfix one. I may be wrong. That may also be Airfix, but Cold War, they go very much in with the theme. It makes sense to do the Saracen in 76 and the 35th scale, $11.99. Fine. I'm sure there'll be people that are pleased to see these back. And the Vickers Light Tank Mark 6, which was a terrible vehicle, but I'm surprised at the price because this is tiny, right? This is a tiny little thing. $11.99 seems a lot for what it is, but if you want it, you want it. So let me go back and have a look at the comments. I just saw John Alec had to leave. Good to see you, John. I'll catch up with you another time. So Casey said it's a fairish price. I have a previous version. I'm still too intimidated to build it. 140 GBP for months of work is decent. Yeah, I think that's a fair point that a lot of people don't think about. It's not just the price of the kit. It's what is this going to give you, And like you say, months of work. You could spend months. It's a project build, right? It's not something you just, slam out in a couple of evenings. I just don't think that would be even possible. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it's fairish. Julian says top heavy price compared to Flying Dray, which had lots of extras. Which again, it's a fair comment. Also, it's a newer tooling as well. The Mark 9. So yeah, it is. It's kind of one of those, you have to balance it, don't you? Time will tell, but it sounds high. Yeah, I think it's that. It's almost like the psychological part of it, isn't it? That it's £150, and it's just something about that. If it was £129.99, that doesn't sound as bad, right? And it's £20 less, which I suppose is 12.5% less or something. But yeah, you see, I'm a firm believer in getting the price right for things. People often come into the shop and say, "Oh, your prices are really good," and I'm like, "Well, you have to compete with the internet, so you have to be comparable, right? Because if you come into a shop and the prices are RRP or thereabouts, you can get it cheaper. You're going to go and look online, even if you see something like, oh, that's unusual. I wonder what it is online. If you're in the shop, in a shop, not just my shop, and see the prices are pretty comparable with the internet, 50p here, there, £1 there. There's no reason not to buy there and then, right? Because you don't have to deal with postage and all that vagary and people kicking the parcel up the road and all that kind of stuff. No delay. So I think it's better to sell more at a slightly reduced price than sell nothing at a higher price, right? 0% of a high price is nothing. So if it feels high, you're going to reduce the number of people that will take that plunge. So I wonder how much more successful it would be if it was $129.99, not $149.99. We'll see. Sounds a lot for a re-release. Yeah, again, it's that feeling bit, isn't it? 10% off and build up your Airfix points and wait for the 30% sale. Yeah, don't do that. So one thing I will say, if you want to call it negative here, don't buy direct from Airfix. Buying direct from Airfix or from Hornby, I should say, will kill the hobby. If you buy direct from model companies, it'll kill the high street. It'll kill part of the hobby. You won't be able to go and browse in model shops. And much like streaming, what I'm finding out now from streaming and stuff is you lose control. You then have to do whatever manufacturers want. If they decide not to sell in a market or to raise their prices, you have no buffer. There's no little place you can go and browse through a load of stuff. So please don't buy direct from Airfix if you can possibly help it. Soapbox aside, buy Airfix kits. Just don't buy them from Hornby. You know, I sell 10% less than Airfix do, and you don't have to join a, you don't have to spend £35 to join a club to get that. Okay, I got off my high horse. When I picked mine up, it was Black Friday 2020, £70. It will be discounted very soon after release. I'm not quite sure which kit you're mentioning, but I think we all get the gist of how it goes with Hornby, right? Want to know what is relatively expensive? The 172nd GR1 AV8A Harriers. I've always thought that because the Harrier is a tiny little aircraft. You're absolutely right, 100%. Why is that? Winkle thought it was a great aeroplane. Indeed. Like you say, it's at a price that makes you stop and think. Too much thinking time means it's a no. Shortly after the original release, these were heavily discounted. Yeah, and it doesn't create a good feeling for a brand, which is why I think, you know, the 30% outlet sales and stuff are damaging for Airfix as a brand. I understand Hornby wants the short-term gain, but it doesn't give a good feel to a brand to have. You know, don't see Tamiya sales, and everybody thinks very highly of Tamiya. Yeah, I rest my case. My modelling skills have direct effect on the price of a model. Do I really want to spend £150 on a model that I know I could not give it justice? That's a very good point. Very good point. Although I would kind of counter that and say it's about your pleasure, right? You're not making it, unless you're making for competition, you're not making a model for anybody else. Don't think about what other people are doing. If you're enjoying doing it, then that's all that matters, right? Oh, I thought that was a CCC, but it was a can. Apologies. I told you what, I was hardly able to see some of these bits because of the lighting. If they ever do the 148th Blenheim with the 4 nose, I'm in. Okay, Alt, we disagree on this. Not that I wouldn't do it. I just think it ruins the lines of the aircraft, right? It looks weird. It's interesting, so I would do it from that aspect. But yeah, it's ugly. I'll leave it at that. Okay, I think I've got most of the comments. The F117 was still standing when the music stopped. Indeed. Simon says, don't get the Nighthawk either. Yeah, I feel like I'm missing something with the F117A release. It's the 250th anniversary of the United States this year, so maybe the Nighthawk in US flag colors makes sense. Yeah, no, I get it, but I don't get it, if you see what I mean. It makes theoretical sense. Is that going to translate to sales? If it's not, then why do it? You know, this is one of the critical things that I used to bring up a lot at sales meetings in my commercial past, is like, yeah, this all sounds great. Is it going to move the needle? If it's not going to move the needle, we're treading water. We're spending money to not get it back. So don't do it. You know, just focus on something else that will move the needle. Like all this Cold War British stuff, I think is fantastic. You know, that's going to move the needle. That's going to get your revenue. Is a, what is it now, 35-year-old tooled F117A with an American flag on that's been done umpteen times before by at least 3 or 4 different manufacturers and is available as an aftermarket decal for all of those F117A kits that are swimming around on shelves, going to get us £30 a time. I mean, just saying it out loud, you know the answer, right? No. No, it's not. So don't do it. Yeah, sales, business isn't rocket science. It's very simple. If you say these things out loud, what you're trying to do, and it doesn't make sense, then, you know, get somebody to stop it. Dale mentioned that one of the schemes for the F117 is for an aircraft flying from Groom Lake in April 2025. Yeah, so what? Is that going to make the difference to somebody buying it? Really? I'm just thinking of that meme of the cop. Are you sure about that? Oh, for the scouts behind it, yeah, on the tanker, yeah. So, what are the models? So I've got a couple of scouts in the shop in 72nd scale. They're the ones that came out last year. Sorry, I keep thinking it's 2025. Is it A model? No, it's not A model. I can't remember the manufacturer. They're quite complex, and the Scout is a tiny thing. They're quite expensive, about £30, I think. Question, Mr. Dr. Man, I'll have you know. Are you excited by and planning to watch the Artemis 2 launch? I'll be honest, no. Which is really sad because I was so excited about space and the space shuttle and all that kind of stuff. The Artemis, I'm excited that we're going into space again. I'm excited about that. I think we've lost so much. If you ever watch a channel called Smarter Every Day, he's an engineer. He gave a talk to the NASA scientists in the Artemis program, and it was worrying as he was talking to them about a lot of the problems that they were facing were solved back in the 60s in the Apollo program, and we've kind of unlearned a lot of that stuff. So I wish them all the best. I'll watch it when it's successful, if that makes sense. I almost feel like I don't want to jinx it, especially with the way this year is going so far. So yeah. Ian bought 2 in the RF Desert Schemes from Lidl. Nice little kits with paint and glue at £6.99 each. Yeah. I think getting the kits in Lidl is great. You know, people often say, "Oh, you're in a shop. Don't you think that's bad?" It's like, no, not at all. The more people that see model kits in shops, the more kids that can go in, and it's a normal thing. And they're £6.99, and their parents maybe can get them to shut them up or not have them look at screens. Maybe that's the start of a whole new journey. They're not going to get all the kits they want from Lidl, are they? So, yeah, bring it on. The engine on the Hellcat is a model in itself, but in my honest opinion, looks far more impressive than the 109's DB605. Interesting. Yeah, because is it the double? It's not the double wasp in the Hellcat, is it? It's a Pratt & Whitney radial, right? But is it just a wasp, not a double wasp? Let me know in the comments if you know off the top of your head. Okay. Rest of the world membership here, cheaper at 16 quid, and the release delay and markup from my local is ridiculous. So sorry, I will buy direct cash. Fair enough. If you don't have the option for, and this is why I say, you know, don't buy from Airfix if you can help it. If you can't help it, you know, c'est la vie. If that's your outlet, better to buy it than not, right? It's really directed at the UK market. Not the rest of the world. Rest of the world, you are poorly served already. So no skin off my nose there at all. Paul Sparky, my question above. Oh, what was your you might have to. Oh, here we go. I have never built a model, but just before Christmas, I saw a Spitfire kit in a shop and I bought it. It was £88, and having opened the box at Christmas, I'm feeling way out of my depth. Where do I start? Paul, if you've never bought a model kit before, put the top back on that Spitfire kit. Go to a shop and buy an Airfix starter Spitfire kit, a Mark V. I think I've got one. Yeah, here we go. Buy this kit. Oh, let me put myself on big a second. buy this kit, it'll be £11.99 tops. I sell them for £11. You can get them for about that from a lot of outlets. And build that. It includes the glue. I wouldn't advise using that glue, but you can. And paints, and it's got a brush in it, and it will get you the basics. So the Spitfire kit that you have, the £88 Spitfire kit, is phenomenal. It will be great, but you really need to start with something like that, like the starter kit, just to start with your skills, just to get used to it. Because otherwise, yeah, it will be overwhelming. I mean, that kit is overwhelming for a lot of people who have been doing models for a while. So it's a great kit. It won't go anywhere. Great thing about plastic kits is they don't, they age well. They don't go off. They're not like milk. Although the kits in the paints in a starter kit might. But yeah, if you get those basic skills down and get that modeling bug, then you can approach the bigger kit. I would suggest probably do a couple of starter kits and get used to how it all goes. Watch YouTube videos. There are plenty of them about, including obviously my channel, a lot of others, Model Minutes, Gary Stuff, Moss, John Alex Scale Modeling, tons of modeling channels out there, loads of information, and just take it at your own pace and just enjoy it. There's no wrong things with modeling, so just enjoy it. And but yeah, that's a big old kit to start off with. I wouldn't recommend jumping in at the deep end right away. But great question, thank you. Right, guys, I'm going to have to crack on because otherwise I'm not going to get vintage classics done. This American says no, the F117 will not sell here. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think I've got most the. Okay, so it was the double wasp. Okay. I think how could it's double cyclone. Okay. Hellcat, it was a double wasp. Okay. Well, there we go. It is a phenomenal engine. Right. Let me go to vintage classics because there is still quite a lot to get through, and I'm aware of the time. Hallelujah. The SRN4 hovercraft. When Mus and I did predictions on Beyond the Box, I think it's 2 years ago now, 2020, or it might be 2025. This is one, I think it was 2024. This is one I said that they should release, and I thought they would. And it's a couple of years later, but they've done it. Fantastic. This will sell like hotcakes. This is great. My dad did this. I remember him doing it. I will be doing it. I think everybody who did models in the 70s will probably end up getting this. Great. I mean, terrible thing, terrible concept, noisier than a billion bees. But yeah, if you haven't got one of these, you'll probably be buying one if you are over 40 years old, let's face it. So there we go. Not much more to say about that. I think that is more or less a license to print money. Unlike, so we've gone from the high, now we get to another one, which I think this is kind of, for me, this is pointless. The Catalina. Not that I don't like the Catalina. I think the Catalina is a really interesting aircraft. It did amazing duties in the Pacific and other theatres. However, for the same money, I can get an Academy Catalina, which is an objectively better kit in every single way. So the only reason to buy this is if you specifically want a nostalgia build, which I don't think there's enough for that, enough market for that, really, for me. For £25, it's a big for me. Yeah. Convince me I'm wrong, but for me, I've built the Academy kit. It's not perfect. It's a hell of a lot better than the Airfix one. And it comes in various versions. This is just the most recent one, because this is their current artwork. I have it from the old 90s boxing. And then from the high to the low, back to the high. This is one I predicted at the same time as the hovercraft, the Skyvan. This is great. This is one of those weird, quirky, odd things, right? When Airfix was doing everything, and any odd thing that could fly, they did. I put this in the same category as the Bristol Super Freighter, which I really enjoyed building. And we'll eventually get a video out of it at some point. It didn't make it in 2025 because I screwed the decals up. It was my fault. So yeah, I'll be getting this. It's such a weird thing. Come on. And they've also got, the Olympic Airlines is a great scheme, right? So yeah, this is good. I think this is a good one. You occasionally see them at model shows. I haven't seen one for years. So, and £22, I think, again, it's a fairly large aircraft. That's not bad. I think that'll be a good little build. Especially since the transparencies, the clear plastic that Airfix uses now compared to the old stuff is almost worth the price alone, rather than getting an old one and trying to deal with those hideous old transparencies that they put in. This one for me is between the Dyna. I think there are better kits out of this from Japanese manufacturers for not much more money, but it's only £10, so it's okay. It's not one that will have me racing out to my local model shop. It's my shop, but it's not one that I'll be racing to steal things off the shelf in my own shop for. But I can understand why people would get it, and it's a Japanese aircraft. The interior isn't going to matter so much because there won't be an interior, but you can't see much anyway. So it's an interesting thing for £10. Yeah, why not? And that sort of goes for the Dauntless. I think less so, though, for the Dauntless for me. And again, I get that a lot of this will be the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, the anniversary of the US, but there's so much more open area in the Dauntless for you to see what's not there. Yes, you could get aftermarket and stuff, but then why not just get a better kit? So again, it's £10. It's worth a tenner, but going back to my earlier, is it going to move the needle piece? No, it's not. And then the Avro 504K. This is the same sort of thing, right? It's not a great kit. It's just over a £5. So if you're into biplanes, you can't pick this up anywhere else. Yeah, it's fine. So as vintage classic goes, £5.99 is virtually nothing. It's the same as a pot of glue, right? So yeah, it's a few hours of pleasure or frustration, depending on the rigging. And then I had to put this. I haven't put any of the figures in because they're not kits, right? There's no building in them. They're little vinyl, things. But this, the Roman fort and figurine set. So they do the figure sets, which I think are £5.99 each. They do the Romans and they do the Celts, I think, or Britons or whatever they are. And then this also includes a Roman fort, which is pretty small for a Roman fort. It's more like it's an outpost. It's a watch post, really. It's £24.99. No. For modelers, no. For a child, actually, I don't think this is bad. 25 quid for a little play set. essentially. That's what this is, something a bit different. Yeah, maybe. I would love to know the sales figures on this in a year's time. It's interesting. I don't think it's not for modelers. Is it going to move the needle? No. Is this going to be a nostalgia build? Not really. Is it interesting? Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that they're doing something a little bit different and getting some of these older things, more esoteric things out. So yeah, it's all right, but it's a bit of a out of left field one for me, that one. And I'll address this. No Robin Hood. Now, if it's Robin Hood, if they got a forest, they'd supplied a forest you had to make with him, then maybe. Crash recovery set. You often see these at model shows and stuff. I don't want to say often. You can see them. This is a nice way of keeping the prices down. £16 is pretty good. So yeah, fine. The only thing I did notice on this is if you actually look on this art has been reversed, because if you look at all of the lettering on it is all backwards. Don't know why they did that. Then we have 3 kits. The Leopard tank, the Chieftain tank, and the Centurion Mark 8 tank, all 1099, and all in 176 scale, of course. I don't think these are bad, actually. There's not really direct equivalents to these for a lot of them. So I think bringing these back, again, you'll probably be able to pick them up for £10. Yeah, why not? And then we have the Matilda. This is not a bad little kit. The tracks were terrible. I'll be interested to see what they look like in the re-release kits. And it gives you some nice opportunities to do that early war desert British camouflage with that blue and the green and sand. And it's £6.99. You'll be able to pick them up for about £6, which is nothing really. And again, I think this is quite a nice little thing, especially if you're into wargaming, that kind of thing. So not bad at all. So I'm just starring comments when I go. And then we have ships. And here the tone might change a little because this did leave me head scratching. Now, not HMS Prince. HMS Prince hasn't been released for a long time. It's one of the tall ships. They've done several of these of late, like Wasser and Victory and various stuff. So this, if you're into it, you're into it. If you like rigging, I don't know why, but if you do, you get it. If you don't, it's going to leave you cold, right? So this is fine. The price is about the same as the others. It's like, oh, okay. However, then we come on to the World War II ships, the 1/600th scale. I don't get any of these, right? So, and hear me out on this, right? I'm going to skip through them because of the time, and my thoughts on them are broadly the same. We have King George V. It's £30. It's 1/600th scale, which is an odd scale. Airfix, I think, are the only ones that did that. 1/700th is the, it's a little bit small. It's not a huge amount. Broadly comparable. £30. You can get the Tamiya 1/700th scale for 20. So, okay, you can have a standard scale for less money from Tamiya, who kind of reigned in this area for a long time, or you can spend 50% more to get the 600 scale Airfix one. Now, yes, you get a full hull on this, if that makes a big difference. But I don't really get it. Again, I think this is more nostalgia than anything. But for me, I just, from a business point of view, I'm not really sure there were that many people clamoring for the 600 scale to come back. So yeah. Then you have not Prince Eugen, as Dale said, Prince Eugen. I'm not many. Even my pronunciation is probably bad. $24.99, comparable to the 1/700th Tamiya one at 23. You got the Scharnhorst, $21.99 versus like less than £15 for the Tamiya 700 scale. HMS Nelson, £22 versus 15 for the Nelson. I actually sold a Rodney, which is the same. It's the same class of battleship recently in the shop. Where it does slightly depart is HMS Suffolk, which is a county class heavy cruiser, $15.99. And actually, if you're going for a 72nd scale county class, you have to go to a Yoshima, and $26.99 is pretty expensive. So actually, HMS Suffolk looks like a bargain. Whoops. Yeah. Then you have HMS Cossack, which is a tribal class destroyer. Oh, it was very imperialistic, wasn't it? $6.99. And then the closest I could get to tribal class destroyers from Trumpeter, $17.95. It's a pretty recent tool, so it's going to be a much better kit, but almost 3 times the price. So again, HMS Cossack looks like a good deal. I would be tempted to mix and match my scales and have a whole bunch of Cossacks. That 600 scale being a little bit bigger. It's only going to be millimeters, right? That might make it a little bit easier to make them and amongst my 1/700 scale battleships. So yeah, I don't really get all of those, why they are, why they're looking at that, especially when, I think somebody's just commented, 1/350 scale are really becoming popular, especially for the smaller ships, but even for the big ones. So it's a bit mystifying, that for me. So yes, multiple Cossacks. I think the Cossack, out of all of those, that is the standout, right? £7 for a little ship, not bad. HMS Suffolk, £16 for a heavy cruiser, not bad. And I think they're the best looking of warships. It looks more like a converted liner, but especially with that big box on back, God, that's ugly. But for the others, I mean, I would go for the Tamiya kit every time with the rest. So a bit odd. I think that's pure nostalgia for me, apart from the Cossack and maybe the Suffolk. Just quickly have a look at the comments. I fancy Prince, but where will I put it? That's the age-old question. Why not update vehicles to 172nd? 176 makes no sense to me. Because they're vintage classics, they can't retool them because that would cost money, and then they would all go up in price. Avro 504, same as a pot of glue, probably better chopping it up and making a batch of sprue goo. That's mean. Probably true, but mean. Romans, I knew someone who did ancient wargaming. Yep, that'd be great for doing that. There's a couple of people coming to shop to do ancient wargaming, and I'm sure they'll be happy to pick up those sets. I'm not sure they'll be buying the Roman fort, though. West Raynham Canberras flew over a house on their landing path. I really like the kit. Also, new decals for the SRN, but my vintage edition is now valueless. Oh, yeah, that does happen. Build it for the laughs, but alone, great sideline. Comment, I like VC kits, but for me, most of VC are just kind of rip-off. I think a lot of the vintage classics, I mean, a lot of them are nostalgia bait, right? Some of them are rubbish, like the Belvedere. Don't get me started. But some actually I think are really good value. The Bristol Super Freighter was one of my more enjoyable builds of the whole year last year. Vintage classics, what, £21? It's great. It's a pretty big aircraft. It makes you work a little bit, but I kind of like that on the odd kit. It's pretty unique. I mean, it's ugly, but it's pretty unique. So I think you have to, like with everything, you have to be a bit selective. SRN4 and Short Skyvan are two classics I will be buying. Yeah, me too. I built the Skyvan as a child, but couldn't get the nose to fit, so I have unfinished business with it. I never could afford the SRN4. Yeah. Yeah, people forget it was expensive at the time. The Academy Cats are also in older versions, PBY 345. Yeah. Yeah. That's one of the ones I have. Okay. I'm going to have to race through these last ones. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. But the last thing I'm going to cover is something they covered all the way through their announcement on new sets. So these are collections of different kits in one box. The first of which is this one. They announced the start of something they're going to be doing, Legends. And this one is over Douglas Bader, or Bader, depending on how you pronounce it. So this is a triple pack. So this is the Bristol Bulldog that we all were asking, where is Bader's Bulldog? The Hurricane and the Spitfire, specifically the Mark I Hurricane, Mark II Spitfire. I like the concept. I'm not sure about the execution. I think I will reserve judgment because, I don't know, £90. Two of those kits, a Spitfire and Hurricane, are less than £30 anyway. So you're not really saving on bundling them. You're just getting the decals for those specific versions, which is cool, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like a great value proposition, if you want to use the awful business term. So yeah, I like the concept. Not sure about this particular pack. I'm sure there will be people that will grab this. I'm sure it will sell. Will it sell in the numbers they want it to? I don't know. Which would be a shame, because I think it's great to honor these people. And I'm sure there are many who could do. I mean, Johnny Johnson springs to mind as one they could easily do. He flew lots of different things. I mean, he flew a lot of Spitfires, but he did fly other stuff. Then we have this. This is something that Airfix have done in the past, celebrating. I've got various boxes of old kits, which are, 100 years of flight or whatever. This is the Swedish Air Force 100th anniversary set, which actually leads me to a prediction I got wrong, the only one I made, which was the Viggen, because it appears in the new Airfix Club, which isn't in this. And I'm like, how could they have made a set celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Swedish Air Force and not included a Viggen? They got the Draken, which is the other really iconic aircraft, and they've got a Mustang and a Spitfire there. It's just, for me, this also £60 for 5 kits, which, mostly are about £10. A little bit more for the Vampire. I would expect a lot less for the Draken. But just, for me, it's a pass. I wouldn't be buying this myself. Will people get it? I don't know. You tell me, guys. Doesn't do anything for me. I would much rather build a Draken, a Viggen, and a Tunnan. I'm actually more tempted by the Airfix Club than this. That tells you how this doesn't turn me on. Then we get Pearl Harbor 85th anniversary. I like what they were talking about with this. The fact that they've got a couple of schemes of aircraft that got off the ground, the P40s. They've got the Kate in there. They've got a Zero as well. £40. Considering the Kate is 25, yeah, it's not bad. It's not a huge saving, but it's not bad. I reckon it'll be on sale in their flash sales later on in the year as well. But yeah, I think that is reasonable. Then we have that I can't get my head around these. Right, we've got 3 commemorative schemes for the Eurofighter and the aircraft that inspired them, which I think is a great idea. Yeah, I think conceptually, again, this is creative. This is cool. And yet there's some weird things. Okay, so the first thing is, this will be the new tooled, like 2025 tooled Typhoon, which isn't that straightforward. Bear in mind that this is not a starter set, so this doesn't, as far as I can see, contain any paints or anything. It's just the schemes. So it's not directed at beginners, which is good because that is not a beginner kit. But you can buy the starter kit, £20 RRP, and the Typhoon you can buy, I think it's 16, and you can get them both for less. So you can get them for about £30 individually, with paints and all the rest of it, for £30. Okay, so you think, okay, you're getting the schemes and everything. That's cool. That's about right. And then you go to the next one, which is 35, but includes a Hurricane, which is less than the Typhoon. And I'm like, how does that work? And actually seems to include less decals for the markings. So I'm just like, I don't get the pricing structure on these. I would have thought they would have all been the same. I mean, for me, I'd be like, no, thanks. I'll just buy the individual things if I want to do this and get the decals. Again, I like the inventiveness. I like the approach. I think the execution is kind of like a little bit letting it down. Then the final one is Blackjack, which I think of all of them, I think this is the most interesting set, because it's got the Tucano. The Tucano is a really nice kit too. I mean, all of these are nice kits. The Eurofighter is the weakest point, actually, in all of them, because of that rear join. It's a real bitch. And I get the $34.99 for if this one was $34.99 and the other two was $29.99, I'd get it because you got a lot of cartograph decals there. And that's going to be much nicer to make than the 48 scale Revell one, I'm sure, with their decals. So they're just a bit odd. I like that they're trying different stuff. I'm not sure how well these are going to go, but oh, sorry, whizzed ahead there. The other thing that I don't really get is this $39.99. The One Small Step for Man set. This is 1/72nd scale, so this is not going to be big. So you get a lunar lander, some astronauts, and a moon-based diorama for 40 quid. I'm like, no. This to me is way off the mark. Yeah, I don't get this. So that's a weird one. And then I think the worst of all, I've saved till last. It's the smallest scale, the Sink the Bismarck gift set. So this is basically the Bismarck, the Ark Royal, the other ships involved in the hunting of the Bismarck. Is £25. It's 1/1200th scale. The 1200 scale ships are not good. I'll just leave it. I'll put it out there. maybe you guys disagree with me. Maybe there's some 1200 scale Airfix ship fans out there, but no, I don't think this is a particularly good idea, because I think the sort of people that are going to want to buy this are going to be put off. You know, the younger people that want to buy this are not going to be that enamored with what they find in the box. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I don't see it. So last, let me just go back up because we have a whole bunch of final comments before I finish. Does the SRN M4 still come with transparent cars? That'll be good. That's a good question. I'd forgotten about those. That'll be a really interesting thing to see when they give more details. At the moment on the Airfix website, they're just the box pics. So we'll have to see. Well done, Paul, for bringing that one up. 1/600 scale strips are actually 59% bigger than their 1/700 scale counterparts when you consider length, width, height. Yeah, but nobody does, Stephen. That's not how we think about things in that way. Yeah, they might be, but they don't feel that, right? The Lunar Lander base attracts me. Okay. I'd love to know why, Emma. I could sell you a bit of grey sand. Oh, is that being glib? Simon, how would you do a model of him considering what happened to him? Do you mean Douglas Bader? I presume I don't know whether they will have a model or models of Bader in the kits with and without tin legs, or not, because when he was flying his bulldog, of course, he was fully legged, as we say. Edward double kits come with 2 full planes and a lot of extras for less than £50. Yes, they do, and they're very good. They should bring the Bismarck set out in May. Yeah, we'll see when they. I mean, I presume that's the aim, right? I guess it depends on when things ship from India. They are. I'm guessing that's probably what they'll do. Question: what about the 12 paints in the Pearl Harbor set? Any value there? No. No. Not for me personally. They must have had a hell of a lot of Eurofighter kits sitting around the warehouse. You may be onto something there. Don't tell anyone. Rumor has it it's an armor Hurricane. Really? Why would it be why would there be an armor Hurricane in that? This is 72nd scale. Interesting. Might have to have a look into that. Ian Williamson says, I'm keen on the Eurofighter Tucano combo, both great schemes. Yeah, I think that's for me, I like this. I don't really like it on the Eurofighter, and you can do the Typhoon anyway. But this is, the Blackjack always looks nice, right? And the Tucano with it. It's a nice combo. It's very striking. So yeah, I would agree with you there. That Hurricane is not an Airfix tool. Is it not? Where are you finding that out from? I'd love to know. And why would they do that? Won't be buying that set. The Hurricane one is named after my ex-wife. Fair enough. That's a very small percentage, I think, of the overall market, though, Simon. I'm guessing the PH set and the Lunar Lander are more oriented towards the US market with their new distribution network. Yeah, and again, that's, I would say, a fairly risky strategy. Okay. No vintage cars this year. No, they've kind of, in fact, no cars at all. I mean, they have got a lot of. They did invest a lot in the new starter sets in cars, but for instance, the old 1/32 scale, we haven't seen any of those in Vintage Classic. Well, I can't even think of when the last one was. So, yeah, good point. Good point, Andy. All right. Edward did a 1/48 Baylor in one of their double sets. Okay. The kit, Alex, I just remember watching it on telly, but the price? Which one, Emma? Sorry, I've gone through a lot of stuff. So, right, I think we are coming to the end of comments. Dale said on Moss's stream, metal winged. With regards to, oh, it's a metal winged Hurricane. Airfix does not have a metal 1/72 recent kit. They already said it was not their own. Interesting. Why on earth have they done that then? That seems very odd. Interesting. A mate used the astronaut figures and old packaging to create a series of artworks. He sold products in an exhibition at £400, not as a diorama, but as an artwork. Interesting. I think that's the kind of thing you could only get away with once. Okay. Well, that's really odd, isn't it? Why would they produce a set specifically with somebody else's Hurricane rather than doing it themselves? Just seems a bizarre thing for them to do. Well, there we go. Anyway, that was my rundown of the new Airfix releases. I think it's probably been their strongest release announcement for a number of years. I think probably since I've been doing YouTube the last 3 years. I think it's got some really good stuff in there. I think obviously the big lead, I think, is the Hurricane. I'm thinking of the Hurricane now. What's going on in my mind is the Phantom. Obviously, the Canberra will have a big pull as well, but 72nd scale isn't as popular as it used to be. I think the 48 scale Phantom will be a big one. We still obviously have their surprise announcements, whatever they end up being. So, I think people are hoping for a tornado. And with this set of releases, it could be the year, right? There's a lot of British Cold War stuff in there. The Saracen, I think, is spot on. For me, some of the highlights, things like the hovercraft and the short Skyvan, actually, from Vintage Classics, are up there. The Saracen, the Phantom has never been a favorite aircraft of mine, but I'm interested to see how the Airfix one compares to those recent toolings from Meng and Tamiya. So I think that's going to be quite an interesting thing, just from an academic point of view rather than anything else, rather than necessarily wanting to have the kits. So yeah, I think it's a really strong release. I think Dale and the team, I really like the way they're doing interesting things. Like the partnership with whoever it is, Armour or whoever for the Hurricane. Releasing all of the old figures. There's also, I think, like 15 or so masking sets that they're releasing as well. I didn't show those because, again, their masking sets are not terribly interesting. They're all £10, all $9.99 for a whole bunch of different kits. So I like the way that they are being creative. I like the direction that they're being taking. Some of these releases show. So I think it's really good. I think it's strong. I hope it does really well for them. And I'll obviously be building some of those kits on the channel in the coming months and possibly years. So thank you all for sticking with me for a couple of hours to go over all of those and giving me your thoughts and giving me information on things like it being a double wasp in the Hellcat. Hellcat's never been a big favourite of mine, so I didn't know that. Been great to see you. Not to see you, but virtually see you on chat. Great to have your thoughts on things as well. And I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Big review of the Gloucester Meteor in 1/32nd scale. The first edition is tomorrow night. I go through all of the components pretty exhaustively to give you a good feel of why it was my kit of the year for 2025, for sure. And it was a difficult choice to come up with that, but I try and show why I think that was the case in that video. After that, it'll be Scale Model Inc. live on Friday. So I hope to see you there. So till then, have a good one. Take care. Bye now.